You're sitting in a room with someone who has killed. Not once, multiple times. Their hands look normal. Their voice sounds calm. They smile when they talk about their childhood. And then, without warning, they say something that makes your blood run cold. Not because it's violent, but because it's logical. Because for a split second you understand their thinking. And that's when you realize the most terrifying truth about evil. It doesn't look like you thought it would. It doesn't sound like the movies. It sits across from you, making eye contact, telling you things about human nature that you wish weren't true. But they are true. I know because I've spent over 200 hours behind prison walls, sitting with men and women on death row, asking questions that most people are too afraid to ask. And what they told me changed everything I thought I knew about manipulation, control, and the human mind. This isn't a story about monsters. This is a story about mirrors. Because every tactic they used on their victims, someone is using on you right now. You just don't see it yet. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Let me take you back to the first time I walked into a maximum security prison to interview someone sentenced to death. The fluorescent lights hum above you. The air smells like disinfectant trying to cover something older, something that seeped into the concrete. You hear doors locking behind you, one after another, each one pulling you deeper into a place most people only see on television. And then you sit down. Just you. A table. And someone who has destroyed lives. I remember my hands were shaking. Not because I was afraid they'd hurt me. The guards were right there. I was shaking because I was about to hear things that couldn't be unheard. The first question I always ask is simple. When did you know? When did you know you could manipulate someone into doing what you wanted? When did you realize you had that power? And here's what terrified me. They all knew. They all remembered the exact moment they discovered they could control another human being's reality. One man told me he was 7 years old. 7. He lied to his teacher about his mother hitting him. She didn't. But he wanted to see if he could make someone believe something that wasn't real. And it worked. The teacher called child services. His mother cried. And he felt something he'd never felt before. Power. Control. The ability to shape truth itself. That's the first truth death row taught me. Evil begins with a test. A small one. A lie. A manipulation. Something so minor you'd never notice it. And when that test succeeds, when someone believes the lie or does what they're told or questions their own reality, a door opens in the manipulator's mind. A door that says, I can do this. I can control people. And once that door opens, it never fully closes. Think about your own life right now. Has anyone ever tested you? A small lie to see if you'd believe it? A boundary pushed just slightly to see if you'd push back? A story that didn't quite add up, but you let it slide? That was a test. And if you didn't catch it, you passed. You became marked as someone who can be controlled. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to wake you up. Because the people I interviewed, the ones who ended up taking lives, they all started the same way. Testing. Watching. Learning who would bend and who would break. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. The second truth came from a woman named Teresa. I won't use her real name, but her story is real. She killed her husband. Made it look like an accident. Collected the insurance money. Almost got away with it. When I asked her how she convinced him to trust her even when she was planning his death, she said something I'll never forget. She said, I made him think every doubt he had about me was his own insecurity. Let that sink in for a moment. She didn't defend herself when he questioned her. She didn't get angry or explain. She simply looked sad, disappointed. And she'd say things like, I understand why you'd think that. You've been hurt before. You have trust issues. I just hope one day you'll see I'm different. She turned his intuition against him. She made his gut feeling, that primal warning system we all have, seem like a personal flaw. And slowly, over months, he stopped trusting his instincts. He stopped listening to the voice inside that was screaming, something is wrong here. Because she convinced him that voice was the problem. Not her. Him. This is the second truth. The most dangerous manipulators don't fight your suspicions. They weaponize them. They make you believe that your doubt is a defect. That your fear is paranoia. That your caution is a sign of damage, not wisdom. And once they do that, you're defenseless. Because you've been taught to ignore the only alarm system you have. Has this happened to you? Have you ever felt something was wrong, truly wrong, about someone, and they responded not with answers but with concern for your mental state? You're being paranoid. You're too sensitive. You need help. Those phrases aren't dismissals. They're weapons. Psychological weapons designed to make you question the one thing you should never question. Your own perception of reality. The technical term is gaslighting, but that word doesn't capture the violence of it. It's not just lying. It's making you doubt whether you're capable of knowing truth from fiction. It's murdering your confidence. And I learned this from people who literally committed murder. Now here's where it gets even darker. Teresa told me something else. She said the reason it worked so well on her husband is because he was a good person. He wanted to believe the best in her. He wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. He'd been taught, like most of us, that trust is a virtue. That suspicion is ugly. That love means believing someone even when the evidence suggests you shouldn't. She used his goodness against him. His morality became his blindness. This is the third truth, and it's the one that haunts me most. Evil targets the good. Not because good people are weak, but because good people have something manipulators need: empathy, conscience, the desire to be fair. If you're a good person, you're more vulnerable than you think, because you'll give second chances. You'll explain away red flags. You'll think, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. And while you're being fair, while you're being kind, while you're being good, they're taking everything from you. Stop right now and think. Who in your life has made you feel guilty for being suspicious? Who has turned your caution into a character flaw? Who benefits from you being understanding, patient, and willing to ignore warning signs? Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Let me tell you about Marcus. He killed 3 people over the course of a decade. Different victims, different methods, but the same psychological pattern. I asked him what all 3 victims had in common. He leaned back in his chair, hands folded, and he smiled. Not a cruel smile. Almost friendly. And he said, they all needed to be needed. He explained it like he was teaching a class. He said he could spot them from across a room. People who lit up when someone asked them for help. People who defined their worth by how much they could do for others. He'd approach them slowly. Ask for something small first. A favor. Advice. A listening ear. And he'd watch how they responded. If they helped, if they seemed energized by being useful, he knew he had found his mark. Then he'd escalate. Bigger favors. More urgent needs. Sob stories. Crises. And here's the thing, they never said no. Because saying no felt selfish. Felt wrong. Felt like they were abandoning someone in need. He told me that by the time he asked them to do something illegal, something dangerous, they were so deep into the role of being his savior that they couldn't stop. Because stopping would mean admitting they'd been used. Admitting that all those months of helping, all that emotional investment, was for nothing. So they kept going. Even when every instinct told them to run. This is the fourth truth. Manipulators don't trap you with force. They trap you with your own identity. They figure out who you think you are, the helper, the loyal friend, the understanding partner, the good child, and they build a cage out of that identity. You stay because leaving would mean you're not who you believe you are. And for many people, that's more terrifying than staying in danger. Do you help people who never seem to get better? Do you have someone in your life who always has a crisis right when you're about to set a boundary? Do you feel responsible for another adult's emotions, choices, or survival? If yes, then you need to hear this. Your compassion is being farmed. Your goodness is being strip-mined. And the person doing it knows exactly what they're doing. Marcus told me he never felt guilty. Not once. Because in his mind, his victims chose to help him. He didn't force them. He just asked. And they said yes. Over and over and over. Until they were complicit in their own destruction. That's how predators think. Your voluntary participation, even if it was manipulated, erases their responsibility in their own minds. I left that interview feeling sick. Not because of what he did, but because I recognized the pattern. I'd seen it in workplaces, in families, in friendships. People being slowly consumed by someone who had learned to weaponize their need to be good. Wait, let that sink in. Your need to be good is a weapon in the wrong hands. The fifth truth came from a man named David. He didn't kill anyone himself, but he convinced 2 other people to kill for him. When I asked how he did that, he said something that stopped me cold. He said, I never told them what to do. I just kept asking what they thought should happen. He'd present a problem. His ex-wife was trying to take his kids. His business partner was stealing from him. Whatever the story was. And then he'd look at his friends, his followers, his loyal circle, and he'd say, what would you do? At first, they'd suggest legal options. Lawyers, police, normal solutions. And he'd sigh. He'd look disappointed. He'd say, yeah, I tried that. It didn't work. She's too powerful. The system is rigged against me. And then he'd ask again. But what would you really do? If you were me? If you'd been hurt this badly? And slowly, over weeks, the suggestions would get darker. More extreme. Until someone finally said what he'd been waiting for. Someone should just take care of her. And he'd pause, look them in the eye, and say, would you help me? By that point, they'd already imagined it, already planted the seed themselves. So when he asked, it didn't feel like his idea. It felt like theirs. It felt like loyalty, like justice. This is the fifth truth. The most sophisticated manipulators never give orders. They plant questions. They create emotional environments where you come to the conclusion they wanted you to reach, and you think it was your idea. This is how people end up in cults, in abusive relationships, in toxic jobs. They don't get dragged. They walk in thinking they chose it. Think about the last time someone in your life changed your mind about something important. Did they convince you with logic? Or did they ask questions that made you doubt yourself until you arrived at their conclusion? There's a difference between healthy persuasion and psychological manipulation. Healthy persuasion respects your autonomy. Manipulation hijacks your thought process. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Now let me tell you about the interview that broke me. Her name was Karen. She killed her own child. When I sat across from her, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to hear her story. But I asked the question I always ask. And what she told me revealed the sixth truth. She said, I didn't think of myself as a bad person, even when I was doing it. She explained that every step of the way she had a justification, a reason that made sense in the moment. She was overwhelmed. She was exhausted. The baby wouldn't stop crying. She'd been abused as a child herself. She was mentally ill. Society had failed her. And in her mind, each of these reasons didn't excuse what she did. They explained it. They made it feel like something that happened to her, not something she chose. She even said she felt like a victim of her circumstances, a victim of her past, a victim of a system that didn't give her enough support. Here's what terrified me. She meant it. She genuinely saw herself as someone who'd been pushed to a breaking point, not someone who made a choice. And that's when I realized the sixth truth. The most dangerous people don't think they're evil. They think they're justified. They think they're the victim. They think they're the hero of their own story and everyone else is the villain. And this isn't just about criminals on death row. This is about the person in your life who hurts you repeatedly but always has a reason, always has an explanation, always has someone else to blame. They're never the problem. You are. Their exes, their bosses, their parents are. The world is, but never them. This tactic has a name in psychology. It's called DARVO. Deny. Reverse victim and offender. When confronted with their behavior, they deny it happened. Then they attack you for bringing it up. And finally, they reverse the roles so that suddenly you're the abuser and they're the victim. You came to them with a legitimate concern, and somehow you're leaving the conversation apologizing. How did that happen? Because they're using the sixth truth. They genuinely believe, or they've convinced themselves they believe, that they're the one being wronged. Have you ever confronted someone about how they hurt you, and by the end of the conversation, you were comforting them? That's DARVO. That's the sixth truth in action. Here's the most chilling part. Karen told me she still doesn't think she's a monster. She thinks she's a tragedy. And in a way she is. But tragedies and monsters aren't mutually exclusive. You can be both. And the people who hurt you can be both. Their pain doesn't erase your pain. Their reasons don't erase their actions. The seventh truth came from a pattern I noticed across almost every interview. When I asked them about their victims, they didn't talk about them like people. They talked about them like objects, obstacles, tools. One man referred to his wife as the situation, not her name, not my wife, the situation. Another woman called the people she defrauded opportunities. They had dehumanized the people they hurt. And I don't mean in some grand conscious way. I mean they genuinely stopped seeing them as fully human. They saw needs, weaknesses, uses, but not souls. This is the seventh truth. Manipulation requires dehumanization, and it happens gradually. First you're a person. Then you're a role, girlfriend, employee, friend. Then you're a function, what you provide, what you do for them. And finally, you're a problem to be managed or a resource to be used. And once that shift happens, they can do anything to you, because you're not real to them anymore. You can see this happening in your own relationships if you pay attention. Does someone in your life only contact you when they need something? Do they remember details about you or only details about what you can do for them? Do they listen when you talk or wait for their turn? Do they care about your feelings or only about how your feelings affect their plans? These aren't small things. These are diagnostic. These are the signs that you're being shifted from person to object in someone's mind. And here's the defense. The moment you feel like a function instead of a human, leave. Don't explain. Don't try to prove your humanity. People who've dehumanized you won't suddenly see you clearly because you argue well. They'll just see you as a malfunctioning tool. Leave. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. The eighth truth is the one I wish I could unlearn. I was talking to a man who'd manipulated his way through corporate America for decades. Fraud, embezzlement, ruined lives. And I asked him, did anyone ever suspect you? He laughed. He actually laughed. And he said, of course they did. But I was charming. And charm beats evidence almost every time. He told me that whenever someone got suspicious, he didn't hide. He didn't get defensive. He leaned in. He'd take them to lunch. He'd ask about their family. He'd compliment them. He'd make them feel seen. And within an hour, their suspicion would feel awkward, rude, like they were being unfair to this nice person who clearly cared about them. This is the eighth truth. Charm is a strategy, not a personality. When someone is excessively charming, especially to people who are questioning them, that's not warmth. That's warfare. Manipulators know that humans are social creatures. We're wired to reciprocate kindness. We're wired to trust people who make us feel good. And they exploit that wiring. They love bomb you with attention, compliments, favors, intimacy. Not because they feel it, but because it works. Think about this. Has anyone ever been incredibly attentive to you right when you were starting to pull away? Have you noticed a pattern where someone is most loving, most present, most charming precisely when you're questioning the relationship? That's not coincidence. That's intermittent reinforcement. That's the eighth truth. They're training you like a lab rat. Reward when you comply. Withdraw when you resist. And over time, you'll do anything to get back to those early days when they made you feel so special. But here's the secret. Those early days were an audition. A performance. Not reality. How do you defend against charm? You listen to patterns, not words. You watch behavior over time, not in isolated moments. You trust data, not feelings. Because feelings can be manufactured. Patterns can't be faked forever. The ninth truth is the darkest. And it's the reason I'm making this video. After 200 hours of interviews, after hearing story after story, I started to notice something that kept me up at night. Every single person I talked to, every manipulator, every killer, every con artist, they all said the same thing about their victims. They said they didn't want to see it. The signs were there. But they didn't want to believe someone could be that bad. This is the ninth truth, and it's the one you need to hear most. The reason manipulation works isn't because manipulators are geniuses. It's because victims don't want to believe it's happening. We don't want to believe that our partner is lying, that our friend is using us, that our parent is toxic, that our boss is a predator. So we explain it away. We make excuses. We give chances. Not because we're stupid, but because accepting the truth would mean our life has to change. And change is terrifying. One woman told me, I think part of them knew. They just didn't want to deal with what knowing would cost them. She was right. And that's the most painful truth of all. You've probably known for a while. Deep down. In that part of you that you've been ignoring. You've known something was wrong. You've known someone was hurting you. You've known you needed to leave, to speak up, to protect yourself. But knowing is unbearable. Because knowing means you can't pretend anymore. Knowing means you have to act. So here's my question to you, and I want you to really sit with this. What are you pretending not to know? Who are you giving the benefit of the doubt to, even though the doubt keeps growing? What truth about your life are you avoiding because facing it would be too painful? Stop. Right now. Stop and listen to your gut. What is it screaming at you? Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. But you've been hearing the whisper. You've just been turning up the volume on everything else. Here's what death row taught me that no textbook ever did. Evil isn't rare. It's not reserved for serial killers and cult leaders. It's in boardrooms, in bedrooms, in family dinners, in text messages. It's the person who makes you feel crazy for noticing their patterns. It's the friend who only shows up when you're useful. It's the partner who loves you just enough to keep you hoping, but hurts you just enough to keep you broken. Evil is common. Evil is strategic. And evil is counting on you to stay asleep. But you're not asleep anymore, are you? You're listening to this right now because some part of you knows something is wrong. Some part of you is ready to stop pretending. So let me give you the tools they never wanted you to have. First, trust your body. Your body knows before your mind does. If your stomach drops when you see their name on your phone, that's not anxiety. That's information. If your shoulders tense when they enter the room, that's not stress. That's a warning. Your body is trying to protect you. Listen to it. Second, watch for the test. Every manipulator tests you early. A small boundary violation. A tiny lie. A request that feels slightly off. If you catch it and call it out, they move on. If you let it slide, they escalate. So the next time something feels wrong, even if it's small, say something. Not aggressively. Just clearly. That's not okay with me. I need you to stop. That doesn't work for me. And watch what happens. If they respect it, great. If they argue, guilt trip, or escalate, you just got your answer. Third, stop explaining your boundaries. Manipulators love when you explain. Because explanations give them ammunition. They'll debate your reasons. They'll find exceptions. They'll make you defend your own needs. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone a justification for protecting yourself. Not your boss. Not your partner. Not your family. Not your friends. No one. Fourth, document. Manipulators rely on your memory being fuzzy. They rely on you questioning what really happened. So write it down. Date, time, what was said, what was done. Not because you're building a legal case, but because you're building clarity. When they tell you that conversation never happened, you'll have proof that it did. When they insist you're remembering wrong, you'll have your own words from that day. Documentation is sanity in written form. Fifth, and this is crucial, stop trying to make them understand how they hurt you. They understand. They don't care. Or worse, they care and they like it. Every time you go back to explain your pain, hoping they'll finally get it, you're handing them a map of where to strike next. People who love you don't need convinced that hurting you is wrong. People who hurt you don't need educated. They need consequences, distance, boundaries, silence. And finally, accept that you can't save them. You can't love them into changing. You can't be patient enough, understanding enough, perfect enough to make them treat you well. Their behavior has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with their character. And character doesn't change because someone asks nicely. It changes when someone decides to change. And that decision is theirs, not yours. You're awake now. And that's both a gift and a burden. Because once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. You'll notice them everywhere. In movies, in news stories, in conversations around you. You'll see people being manipulated in real time and you'll want to scream. You'll want to shake them and say, "Can't you see what's happening?" But here's the thing. They're where you were before you knew. And they'll wake up when they're ready. Or they won't. That's not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is this. Protect yourself. Honor what you know. Trust what you feel. And never again make yourself small to make a manipulator comfortable. You've been taught to be nice. To be understanding. To give people chances. And those are beautiful qualities. But they're not suicide pacts. You can be kind without being a target. You can be compassionate without being consumed. You can be loving without being destroyed. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. But now you know what to listen for. The test. The charm. The confusion. The guilt. The isolation. The dehumanization. The gaslighting. The pattern. And most importantly, you know what they're counting on. They're counting on you to stay silent. To doubt yourself. To give one more chance. To explain away what you feel. To be good. To be fair. To be understanding. To be asleep. But you're not asleep anymore. So here's my final question, and it's the one that will change everything. What are you going to do now? Now that you know. Now that you can see. Now that you've heard what death row taught me about human evil and human blindness. Are you going to go back to pretending? Or are you going to trust yourself? Are you going to set boundaries? Are you going to leave? Are you going to protect the people you love from what you now recognize? Are you going to be the person who stops the test in its tracks? Because here's the truth they really don't want you to know. You're more powerful than them. You always were. They need your compliance. They need your doubt. They need your guilt. They need your hope. They need you to keep believing their lies. But you don't need them. You don't need to prove anything to them. You don't need their approval, their love, their validation, or their permission. You just need to trust yourself. And the moment you do, their power evaporates. Because manipulation only works on people who've been taught to ignore their own instincts. And you're not ignoring yours anymore. The men and women I interviewed on death row taught me 9 truths about evil. But they also taught me something else. Something they probably didn't mean to teach me. They taught me that the difference between someone who destroys lives and someone who doesn't isn't intelligence. Isn't opportunity. Isn't even evil itself. It's choice. Every single one of them had moments where they could have stopped. Where they could have chosen differently. And they didn't. They chose power over conscience. Control over connection. Destruction over humanity. But that also means the opposite is true. You can choose differently. Every day. Every interaction. Every relationship. You can choose to see clearly. To trust yourself. To walk away. To speak up. To protect yourself and others. You can choose to stop participating in your own manipulation. That's the real secret death row taught me. Evil requires participation. And you can withdraw your participation at any time. Right now if you want. This moment, this breath. You can decide that you're done. Done explaining. Done hoping. Done enduring. Done pretending. Done making excuses for people who've made a pattern of hurting you. You can be done. And that's not cruel. That's not cold. That's not unforgiving. That's survival. That's sanity. That's self-respect. So go ahead. Be done. Walk away from whoever just came to mind while you were listening to this. Set the boundary you've been afraid to set. Say the thing you've been afraid to say. Trust the feeling you've been afraid to trust. Because your life is waiting for you on the other side of your fear. And you've spent enough time in prison. The bars aren't made of steel. They're made of obligation, guilt, hope, fear. And you have the key. You've always had the key. You just needed permission to use it. So here it is. Permission. Not from me. From yourself. To yourself. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to trust your gut. You're allowed to be done. Now go. And when they ask you why, when they demand an explanation, when they try to guilt you back, when they tell you you're overreacting, when they charm you, when they test you, when they whisper that you're being unfair, remember this. Evil doesn't announce itself. It whispers. But so does truth. And you know which voice to listen to now, don't you?